Welcome to the session. Topic of this session is project preparation and project selection, and you all are aware that preparation of very good project, preparation of successful project is very difficult task, require different types of resources. They require the resources for the manpower, they require resources to conduct the sector survey, to collect the data. So different types of resources are required, and for preparing a good project actually we need to consider different aspects, social aspects, the technical aspect, financial aspect. So from the starting of the project preparation phase, from the identification to stage to the preparation phase, the implementation phase, the appraisal phase, the evaluation phase, the monitoring, we need different types of resources. So, and the project preparation phase is the most important phase. Actually, this is the like a foundation of a building. If foundation of building is not good, there is always danger in the building. Anytime it can be fell down. So when prepare the good project, we need to prepare the very good plan. We need to prepare the very good project plan. So and actually the identification of project also is very difficult task. So we need to employ different types of the resource, tools to identify, to prioritize the projects. So in this session basically we are going to discuss some of the aspects which we should consider while preparing the project, and what are the different tools which are available for selecting a good project. So we will be discussing the different aspects for the project preparation, as well as what are the different tools. There are two types of tools available. One is the numerical tools, another is non-numerical tools. So we will briefly discuss we will define the different tools available for selection of the project in this session. So let us start with the project formulation and preparations. So what are the things we need to have, we need to understand, we need to employ for developing a good project. So actually this process start after the project identification, and actually so project formulation and project preparation phase start with the identification or developing a broad concept or broad project idea about the project, which kind of the project we will be having in the for the development of society, for development of the agriculture sector, or development of livestock shelter, or developing the infrastructure for the agribusiness organization, or developing a food park. So after having the broad concept or project idea, the process start, and it is very important phase actually, and it involves various kind of activities, and so actually in this we prepared the feasibility report of the projects, and which involves the different type of the analysis, and we need to actually analyze all the component of the project. Suppose a project is there for the improving the productivity in a agriculture sector or a particular crop. So there are two ways. One, we can increase the supply of the yielding varieties, or sometimes we can provide price incentive so that the farmers employ the more of the high yielding or high productivity technology, which provide the good yield in the field. So we need to analyze all types of the components which we are going to include in a project. So we need to prepare the feasibility reports, like sometimes we have to do soil sample, soil survey, sometimes we have to prepare the report about the water availability, sometimes also we have to do study related to the socio-cultural aspect of the peoples or farmers and their the management system, their decision making process. So basically, so sometimes the financial viability of the project also need to be analyzed. So all type of the viability analysis or feasibility analysis we do while preparing a good projects. And when we prepare the projects, sometimes we have to refine the project objectives or target, what actually we want to achieve out of implementing this project, after executing this project, a particular project. So we need to clearly define the project objectives and project targets. Then the potential component or elements of the projects we need to define. Suppose our plan to increase the farmers' income should be doubled within 5 years period. So for that there are different components are there. So, providing the good quality of the yielding variety seeds, providing the all type of inputs like fertilizers, providing projects on the soil fertility assessment, then providing the prices, providing the market support. So all these components need to be properly analyzed and properly defined in a project. And then the alternative potential designs are also evaluated, and they should be ranked actually which is the best one. Suppose here the same example, to increase the farmer incomes, there are different way by providing subsidized input, providing the price support. So out of these two, which is the good design to achieve the objective of increasing the farmer's income? So all this should be properly analyzed, properly designed in while formulating the projects. When we prepare the good project or project plan, actually we need to determine the appropriate project size and locations. So in which area the project will be implemented and what will be the scale, whether the project is limited to a particular village or particular blocks or districts, state or regions or as a nation whole. So we need to properly determine the size of the project or location of the project also in 2 districts or 5 districts or complete states. So we need to properly determine all this. Then we need to provide detailed cost estimates and assess the potential benefit. For each component of the project we need to estimate the costs, what will be the cost of each component. Then we need to assess the benefits which will be derived from the project outputs, and we need to prepare the financing plans from where the finance will be arranged and at what level of the project how much financial resources will be required. And also we have to plan about the from where we will get the financial resources. Then we need to also secure the preliminary review. It may be done by some independent agency or sometimes financial agency, or sometimes we need to also get the approval of the competent authority, or we can say we need to have in principle approval. So broad or big broad type of approval or consent from the government authorities for implementing the projects we need to also obtain while formulating the project. And then in this stage also we need to explore the different funding agencies like bank or financial institutions. Sometimes external donor are also there. So we need to we need to explore the possibilities of the funding from the different organizations, the banks, the donor agencies. Now we will move to the project selection, how we can select the good project. This is the task of this session, and actually there are different tools are available. So before we go to the different tools, let us understand what is the project selection. So project selection is the process of evaluating the independent projects or group of projects and selecting some or all of them. So basically there are different projects is there, or there are a number of projects we can say which we can use the similar kind of output or objectives or goals. So out of that different project we need to select the best one, or sometimes we need to select 2 or 3, or we can prepare the list of the project based on the priorities. So for that process is basically called the project selection. So this process is a complex, and choosing a number of different projects, or sometimes we can say portfolio in case of private companies or business organizations, is even more complex. So this is a very complex process, and there are several techniques are there that help the manager to select the projects. So that is very much important. And and sometimes this decision problem or decision taking problem is called decision aiding model. So the models which help in taking or which help in selecting the project is called decision aiding models. And we can define here what is the model basically. So, a idealized version of the problem that result in a simplified description of the system is called the model. So, when there is the solution system is there, there is the process of reaching at a conclusion. So, that process is simplified, or that process is description is available, then we can say it is a model. So, model is basically an idealized version of the problems that results in a simplified description of this system is called as a model. So, the model may be quite simple sometimes, or the model may be extremely complex sometimes, and we need to have different inputs for model. We need to have some different data, we need to have different information to utilize the model for decision taking. And sometimes in most of the times we have the probabilistic data. We cannot say the data is 100% in deterministic natures. There is always some probability is there with the data. Like if you want to develop a project to increase the farmers income, so we have to predict the prices. So prices we can say with the probability. So we can say that in the future the prices of this particular crop will be 2000 rupees per quintal, but we cannot say with sure that this 2000 rupees per quintal of that particular commodity will be there. So there is a chances that the prices may be 2200 rupees per quintal. So this is the basically we can say stochastic information we have rather than the deterministic information when we choose a project. So we have to take the decision with this random information or some the information which is available with the not a fully or we have to take the decision with the some uncertainty or some variability is there in the data provided. So this information sometimes vary from the actual position, actual condition in when we implement the project. And when we talk about the nature of this project selection model, there are two types of models available. One is the numerical model, another is the non-numerical model. So in case of numerical model, we use the number as an input which are in objective nature. So here we give some information based on the data, like productivity data is there, the prices data is there, the input supply data is there. So here when we talk about the numeric model, we give some data, some information, and we provide them while calculating the the results or some ratios. So here numerical informations are there. In case of the non-numerical, we do not use the numbers as an input, and they are basically subjective in nature. So, so based on the some consideration, actually we take the decision. In case of the numerical, the results or the information, the output is the objectives, we can measure them. So in case so non-numerical, we cannot measure with precise informations whether the success will be there or no. But the most important thing, the model do not make the decisions. Actually decisions made by the people actually who are involved in the decision making process. So model generally they give some idea that this particular model will be a good, this particular project will be a good, but decisions is taken by the people, the project management team, the authority, what type of project is good, which project is good for a particular area, and generally the model are only a partial representation of the reality, because we have the stochastic information. We cannot have the data of with 100% correctness. The input is not with 100% correctness. So they provide a partial representation of the reality. So actually ultimate decision is taken by the persons who are the authority, who are authorized to take the decisions. And here the project management role is very much important. They take the selection of the project, they take the decision about the selection of the projects. So their role and responsibility is very important while selecting the project for implementation in an area. And now we can discuss about the different types of models which are available. One is the non-numerical model. In case of non-numerical model, the first method is the sacred cow. So here the senior or powerful functionary suggests some projects. So like in an organization, the top boss say now we should work in this direction, there is opportunities coming and there is a possibility to work in this area. So they give some broad idea, or they give some undeveloped idea or for a new product, new projects. So for such project or support idea, their efforts are needed for the development of new markets actually, and development of project idea leading to further exploration. So when some top boss say or some authority say or some minister say in case of agriculture that we need to explore our desi breed for the avenue for increasing the milk production. So it is a kind of broad idea or rough idea, and then we need to further explore this idea. And and actually this idea is implemented, they are maintained until successfully concluded, or in some content the authority they say they feel that the idea is a failure, and then we terminate the project. So because here subjectivity is there is no objectivity is there. So that's why if project or top boss feel that project this idea was not a good idea, then only we terminate the project. Then another non-numeric model is the operational necessity. Sometimes the selection of project is based on the operational necessity. If there is a flood situation is there, then we have to implement the project to build a protective dike. So if some flood problem is there, we have to build the protective dike. So this is the operational necessity. So here there is no other option but to create the project, to build the projects of a particular time. Then competitive necessity is another method in case of the non-numeric model. Sometimes modernization to maintain its competitive position in the market. Suppose a firm or agribusiness firm actually they want to maintain their competitiveness in the market, so they will modernize their factory, their plant to have more efficiency, to have the quality product. So for such project actually there is not much analysis is needed. Based on their experience they can take the decisions. So many organizations or many business houses, they are generally time to time they restructure or re-strategize their activities in order to become a more competitive, or in order to create the competitive environment in the market. Then product life extension is another non-numeric methods. Here the purpose is to fill a gap or to strengthen, to remove a weak link, or to diversify their activity in a production activity, or to develop new lines, or to expand the already available activity. Like in case of dairy plant, we can say if a plant or a company is developing is dealing with the liquid milk, or they are also producing the ice cream, and in case of the winter season there is no demand for ice cream, so they think or they can create the new line of developing the milk powder from the milk available. So it is basically an extension of the activities which are being done by them, and to make them more appropriate to expand in the business. So this is another model. And then comparative benefit models is another model. Actually sometimes a number of projects could not be easily comparable, and they does not have a formal methods of selecting the projects, because we don't have any information and data. So how to select the best project in that condition when we don't have any information? Actually the selection committee of organization or a company, they feel that some project will benefit the society, institution, firm more than the other project. Even they have no precise way to define or measure the benefits. So here the selection committee, they give some ideas or they give some recommendation that this particular project will be helpful to the company, to the organization, to the institution, because there is no precise way to define the projects or to measure the benefits of the project. So based on their common understanding, the selection committee gives some recommendation. So generally what they do, they simply they analyze whether which kind of project is best fit with the firm's objective, with the organization objective, with the available budget also. By considering this objectives or budget or other things, they give some recommendation. Based on that we select the project. That is the basically new numerical methods of project selection. Now we will move to the numerical model of the project selections. So there are two models are there. One is the non-discounted criteria are there, another is the discounted criteria is there. So in case of the non-discounted criteria, basically the payback method is the most commonly used method, and here in this method the time needed to recover the original investment from the net returns before depreciation, but after the paying the taxation is the payback period. So here basically decision is taken based on the criteria that when we incur some investment, so how much period is required, how many years is required to recover this investment. So this is the criteria actually used by many organizations, many firms, many agribusiness organizations. So here adoption of an investment project is as long as it pays for itself within a specified period of time. So decision is taken how much time it will take. So if you want to purchase a farm machinery in a field or on agriculture field actually, so how much time the farm will take to recover the cost of the farm machineries. This is the criteria generally used, and actually this payback period method is measure the speed of the capital recovery, in how many time, how many years we will recover the money of that particular project. So rather than the profitability, so here we do not measure the profitability, how much return will get from the projects, but only what we measure the time period which required to recover the cost of the machinery, or we can say the investment in a project. So here in this method of payback method, we do not consider the time value of the money, the cost of the capital and the cash flow over the period of time or the entire project life. We only consider only the period in which we will be able to get or we will be able to recover the project investment. Then another non-discounted criteria is the accounting rate of return. Basically this method actually measures the profitability of that project. So how much we will be able to achieve, how much benefit will be there from the projects, that we measure using this accounting rate of return method. And here we use the average income over average investment, and in the average income is basically a simple average of expected benefits from the investment computed after depreciation and taxes, and this accounting rate of return is the superior technique to compared to the payback method, since it measures the profitability and the analysis is usually extended over the entire life of the project. Then we will move to the discounted criteria, and here we need to consider the concept of time value of money. And when a rupee is received today is more valuable than a rupee to be received say after 1 year. Suppose we have the 50 rupees with us, and from this 50 rupees today we can purchase the 1 kg of sugar, and from this 50 rupees after 1 year generally we will be purchase only 900 gram of sugar. So after 1 year this value of 50 rupees is declined from 1 kg of sugar today to 900 gram of sugar 1 year after. So, over the period of time, the value of the money, the currency value of the money will decline over the period of time. So, this concept basically we used while calculating, while using this discounted criteria for selecting a good project. So, here assumption is that there are lot of opportunity available in the society to invest the available money. So, a rupees received today could be invested to earn money immediately. So, this is the basic criteria assumption, and a rupee to be received could not be invested until it is received. So, if we are not receiving the money today, so we will not able to invest in the some projects. So, there is a less value of this money which we will be getting after 1 year or after 2 years. So, here a differentiation should be made between the cash flow received at different point of time. So, if we are receiving 500 rupees today, 500 rupees after 1 year, 500 rupees 2 years, after 2 years 500 rupees after 3 years. So, there is a difference in the value of this 500 rupees. So, we need to consider the value of this 500 rupees and over the period of time in calculating the project benefit and cost. So, before adding cash flow to be received at different point of time, they should be properly adjusted, and for this adjusting process what we call as a discounting criteria or discounting process. So, there are different criteria are there. One is the net present value method. This is the one of the criteria, and this is determined by discounting the value of investment with an appropriate interest rate over a period of time. So, here what we do actually we calculate the discounted follow of the benefit of the projects or return of the projects, and then we minus the discounted investment. If the investment is for a longer period of time, then we have to calculate the discounted investment. If discounted is only for 1 year, so there is no need to have discounted investment. We simply minus this investment with the discounted cash flow. Then another method is the internal rate of return. Internal rate, basically it is the discount rate at which we make the net present value equal to 0. So, actually this rate of return give us the rate of earning the benefit, rate of earning the return from a project. So, rate of return should be always we can say the more than interest rate or more than the when we deposit this money in the bank. So, at least it should be more than the interest rate. So, rate of return should be the more than interest rate, and here basically we compare the project based on the rate of return. We select the project which give more rate of returns. So, suppose there are 3 projects are there, one give the 20% rate of return every year, another give the 15% rate of return, and third is giving the 12% of rate of return. So, we will select the project which provide the 20% rate of return every year. Then the third method is the benefit cost ratio. So, here BCR is one of the choicest criteria commonly used in the economic analysis of the public investment projects or programs. It is the most common used methods to select the project, to identify the project. It is basically a relative measures and not an absolute measure, because it provides the result in a ratio. In case of the NPV or IRR, we were getting some the absolute value, how much return will be there over the period of time. In case of IRR, we were getting the some rate of returns, but in case of this BCR ratio, we are getting only a ratio. So, it is basically relative measures, and which does not provide the complete absolute figure of the benefits which we are going to receive. And so ratio of the present worth of benefit to present worth of cost, this is the method. So, here basically what we do to get the ratio, we divide the present worth of benefit to the present worth of the cost. So, we get some ratio. This ratio is sensitive to the rate of discount what we are using in the formula, And but here in this session we are not discussing about the formula, we are giving simply the definition and the purpose of the different methods, different discounting criteria for selection of the model, selection of the projects. So, in a decision criteria, in case of the BC ratio, accept all the project with a ratio of more than 1, or if there are 2-3 project, or we want to select only one project, in that case we select the project which is having the maximum ratio. So, in case of alternative project, actually project with higher benefit cost ratio are selected by using this benefit cost ratio. Now, we can sum up this session, like we have discussed about the project preparation aspects, which are very important, which are the basically foundation of project, which is like preparing a foundation for the building. So, it is very much important. So, in the project preparation phase, actually we do different feasibility study, we do define the objective of the projects, and then we do different type of analysis, and particularly the design of the projects and different alternative design of the projects. Then we also take the decisions on the skills and location of the projects. Then we also estimate the cost and benefit. We prepare the financial plans, the money required for the program. We also take some preliminary approval. Then also we explore the different source of finance. And then in case of the project selection, we have discussed there are 2-3 different methods. One is the non-numerical method, another the numerical methods. In case of the numerical method, which we do not have some inputs or numerical data, they are basically of subjective in nature. In case of numerical method, we use some numerical information, numerical data, we can measure the output. So, they are the objective methods of the project selection. And again this numerical methods, there are 2 types of method, one is the undiscounted, another the discounted measures. So, in case of undiscounted, payback period and accounting rate of return, these are the 2 most commonly used methods. And in case of the discounted, there are a net present value of the project output, then internal rate of return, then benefit cost ratio. These are the 3 most commonly used methods, are widely used methods in order to select the best projects, or in order to prepare the list of the best available project, so that the decision can be taken by the authority, project authority, to finally select a project for implementation. Thank you very much.